Well, friends, the time has finally come. It is time for me to enter the witness protection program once and for all, and to begin my life as a desert hermit. I need to retire from society and just not be around others and not be anywhere where I can be found or recognized anymore. Because this past weekend, I had my first event since the face situation. And my face indeed looks, it looks very strange. I look like a very strange person. But this was a private event where I was the keynote entertainment. And so, of course, I'm not going to cancel that. They did not really have entertainment if I wasn't there. This was St. Francis Church in Frisco, Texas. Wonderful, amazing place. And I'm not going to cancel on these nice people. So I decided to just, you know what? I was like, I decided to engage in some positive thinking. I decided to live out the advice that I'm always telling you guys on this podcast. I thought, you know what? Why am I assuming that the worst will happen? Why would I assume that? You know, I've seen some great wisdom from ancient texts, by which I mean TikTok, about, why do we always assume that, the worst thing is going to happen? Why don't we assume the best? And I even saw, I really did get this from TikTok. I saw the advice to, write down your intention, write out a vision of how great it could possibly be. And I wrote out, I go to this event and I just breezed through it. And I actually wrote, and I see pictures of myself and they're really not that bad. I mean, I've mastered a really iconic pose, even with my face messed up. I have mastered this, and it's just like this very iconic way of presenting myself. So none of that happened. I take back everything I ever said about positive thinking. Everyone on TikTok is wrong. It's just all anything that has to do with positive thinking or imagining positive outcomes. I'm here to say, you guys, it's probably going to be worse than you think. It's going to be terrible. You will be embarrassed. And it's just going to be a hellscape, whatever it is that you're worried about. Well, I will say my set went well and the people were very nice. So there was that. I learned, so they have this event center that has a coffee shop that, us being Catholics, we turned it into a bar for the event. But it had booths and everything. It was this gorgeous event space. I was like, what, are we Protestant? Like this, I thought only Protestants had coffee shops with booths. I don't know. I think the one true church is about to take back over the world, because now that we have coffee shops with booths on our parish grounds, I think it's pretty much over for all the other religions. So anyway, so this was it was a date night thing. I kind of in anticipation of Valentine's Day. It was a chance for couples to just hang out. It actually wasn't, an overtly religious, spiritual event. I mean, again, it was at a Catholic church, but it was in the parish entertainment center, and they had a band just playing regular hits and all that. So it was just like kind of a fun couples night out, and they had a nice setup. They had this nice stand with a bunch of flowers on it that had a Valentine's Day motif. And the first part of the event, it was like a VIP kind of meet and greet thing. And because God wants my life to be a sitcom and, just for your entertainment, also because I am destined to live the litany of humility. That's a prayer that a lot of Catholics say. It's the litany of humility. Lord, let others receive glory and not me. Just look at my life as the litany of humility. So I do a lot of private events, guys, a lot. A photo op with me is almost never part of it. Maybe 1 out of 20 events max. I think that's a generous estimate. Maybe 1 out of 20 events. It's like an important part of the event that everyone at the VIP function takes pictures with me, which is because like a lot of people at these private events, they don't know who I am. So it's like, they're like, do we have to? They're like, yes, this is part of your VIP package. And so I had to take a bunch of pictures with people. And again, these people were so lovely. Like, I'm buds with them. I'm going to be hanging out with them next time I'm back in town. I'm not. This is a totally fair thing that they did at their event. My fault that I look the way I do. So we're taking pictures, and the photographer, this great gal, Kathleen, I was like, I've really been working on just doing a pose that it just looks a little dramatic. I'm not smiling. And guys, I've got to stop with the positive thinking. I've gone too far. I am an example that high self-esteem positivity culture can go too far the other direction, because I really got it in my head. I was like, I bet I look really good, actually. I bet I look, I think I might have nailed this. I think I might have figured out how to really make this facial injury work for me and look daring. You have to understand, as all of these pictures were being taken, I got to get off TikTok, because these people get in my head with all their positivity and their affirmations. I was like, I bet I look mysterious. I literally thought that, Caitlin. I was like, I bet I look mysterious. So I asked Kathleen, the photographer, I said, can I just see like how I'm looking? And I fully expected, because I have mastered the art of being delusional, I really thought I was going to look like, have you ever seen Angelina Jolie on the red carpet when she's vamping and, not smiling and has like her eyes are kind of set like she's really focused on something? I did that. I thought that's what I would look like. Well, friends, not even close. Not even a little bit close. I looked like if someone who was wasted tried to draw Julianne Moore from memory with their left hand and they're right-handed. That's what I mean. It's honestly dead on what I look like. And instead of, so I thought that I'd seen people on social media do this, where you kind of furrow your brow, because they're like, you have to have iconic thoughts in order to do an iconic pose. And so as I was taking these pictures, I thought, I'm mysterious. I'm making this work. And then and I saw the pictures, and it was like just circus music. Nothing mysterious about it. Like, I was the least mysterious person. I just looked confused, under the influence, definitely like I had like 6 or 7 different problems and diseases. So, what a crashing back down to reality moment. And then I also saw some video where I was like, I hadn't really, I didn't realize until this event, I hadn't seen video of myself other than I occasionally do kind of facial exercises and stuff. And I guess, I've talked to you guys on the Patreon Live, but I hadn't watched back the whole thing, without a mask. I guess I should say I didn't wear the mask and eye patch to this event. That would be too weird. So that's not what they wanted when they had me, like right now on the podcast, for those of you watching on YouTube, all 3 of you, right now I look like a Chechen warlord. That's accurate, right? I do. Yeah. I literally do. So you can't show up to professional classy events looking like this. I had to try to look normal. And so I had it in my head that I had really pulled off this dramatic, iconic look. And so when I saw these videos, I realized it's, especially when I am engaging with people I don't know, I tend to be very animated. I think this has not even fully come across on the Patreon lives that I've been doing, without any Chechen warlord gear. I think that has not fully come across because I feel like I know you guys. You guys are kind of my buds, so I'm very relaxed. It's like when I'm talking to Caitlin or Joe or whatever when I'm on the Patreon live. But when I'm around people I don't know, I tend to be more animated. And that is not working, but that's just a magnifying glass on all of my hideousness. It's a real problem. So I saw this video of myself and I was like, I really look like I have a problem, and I don't even know what problem I think I look like I have, but it just looks like something is off. And then I did kind of have a moment of reflecting. The facial injury is like slightly my fault. I mean, it does have something to do with my own decision making. And I was like, maybe that's not inaccurate to be like, yeah, she has a problem. It's not what you think, but her brain has something to do with the way she looks. So it was awkward for people who didn't know me. And here's the other thing, guys. I'm 6 feet tall. And I am an albino. And I have red hair. I can't be a wallflower. I can't just, sink into the background because I always stand out in groups of people. And I make them nervous especially with my face looking the way it does. It's like, oh, what's this villain doing here? She's watching us. It's weird. And I'm over there thinking, I look mysterious. And they're like, we're so scared. Is it contagious? So with all this, okay, so we had the VIP event, which was with a small number of people. And again, photo op it became clear to me that was a big value add for these lovely people who had brought me out to be part of their event. And I'm always very big on, I want to make sure that these people are thrilled with my performance and feel like they really got great value out of me being there. So I was just very conscious of that. So then when the whole group came in, there were like 350, 400, let's say 400 people here. So 400 people flood in. So now we're around this big group. And some people, a small handful of people recognized me. They hadn't been part of the VIP event, but they recognized me and they're like, oh my gosh, Jen, we listened to your podcast. So hello to the gals who were there. and a small line formed, like not very small percentage of the crowd, but a few people did recognize me and lied to me. They're like, you look, hey, it's so, and that one gal she was more real, and I love her. I was like, I'm really self-conscious about my face. Everyone had been lying to me, and she was like, do you want me to pray over you? That's the response I needed, and that was amazing, by the way. She hit the tangent alert. Okay, I haven't even told you the horrible thing that happened, by the way. We haven't gotten to that yet. But I just want to take this tangent of this girl. She has the gift of prayer and being with the Holy Spirit. And so she did this kind of prayer where she was like, Lord Jesus, speak to us. Lord Jesus, be here with us, lead us. And so it wasn't exactly like Lord, we are praying for Jen to not be so hideous and stop scaring people. She's not mysterious. Please let her know that. It wasn't like that. It was just, we are receiving what the Lord has from us. And by the way, everyone's watching that. I mean, all 400 people can see the weirdo freak in the corner getting prayed over. They're like, yeah, that probably needs to happen. But I don't care anymore. I was like, I couldn't look like more of a freak than I already do. So I'm getting prayed over and it was amazing. But here's the crazy thing. These people, some people they have a gift. Like they have a gift of walking with God. She said, I'm receiving a message from the Lord. May I share it with you? And I said, yeah, of course. And she said, he's giving me a word. And she told me that word. And I had received that word. I wrote it down in my journal like 3 or 4 days before. I said, I think this is what God is telling me. And you know what's funny is I had talked myself out of it. I was like, no, that's probably just me making that up. She received that same word. How crazy. That's wild. So that was cool. Okay, end tangent. Hit the end tangent sound effect. Now I will tell you the part. This is why I haven't told you yet why I have to go into witness protection. So this is why. So they have the beautiful Valentine's Day backdrop, and these gals, some of them, these couples and whatever came up and took pictures with me, and we chatted. And then the last people in line were, it was weird. They were just being kind of rude to me. And I was like, see, they're probably not podcast listeners because you guys are always nice. I've never met a podcast listener who wasn't nice. And they were just being really rude and standoffish. And at this point, I realized I was not mysterious. And because they were being, just like not cool to me, I didn't really care how I looked. So, I mean, I cannot even imagine how weird. I truly looked like a circus show side freak for sure in these pictures. And I just didn't care anymore. And so like 3 or 4 of the, but like 3 or 4 of the couples were just like, they were just being rude. And I was like, I don't get, like, I'm not forcing you guys to take a picture with me. Could you guys hold space with me for a moment? If you're driving, could you pull over your car just pause this podcast and please pull over your car, put it in park. And I want you to just be here with me in this space and time. This was Saturday night, February 8th in the year of our Lord, 2025. I realized that these poor couples did not want a picture with me. They were just dressed up. Everyone was very dressed up. And they wanted a picture in front of the Valentine's Day backdrop. They had no idea who I was. And keep in mind, I looked a little different. And they just wanted a picture with them. And I kept stepping in their pictures that the professional photographer was taking and looking like an absolute freak. Like one of these couples, they didn't speak very much English and they did seem so scared of me. And I was like, I love it that they're such big fans, but it seems like they don't speak English. I wonder how they follow my content. Perhaps they have ChatGPT translate. Like, I don't, and I was like, because I'm dressed up for an event. I was like 7 inches taller than they were. And so I am this circus freak, weird looking villain albino who's like, I ruined their pictures. These were like, they were just trying to get a picture of themselves having a nice night out. And I step in and they were like, who is this giant freak? Like the giant freak won't leave us alone. They had no idea who I was. So that's it, guys. You'll never hear from me again. Like, you can check my social media. I will have deleted it all. Nothing, no more. Well, actually, we're doing a Patreon live event this Saturday. Okay, patreon.com/thisisjen. Okay, maybe we'll do the Patreon live event, and then I'm going into seclusion. That's it. I'm changing my name. I'll choose a nice name. Like, what's it? Like, Bridget is a nice name. My name will be Bridget Anderson. I'm Bridget Anderson from here on out. I will not have a public presence. I will not do comedy, and I will just live my hideous self up in a cave somewhere. That many saints did this. Many desert hermits have done this. This is the life for me. Clearly, I mean, God has been calling me to this for a while. So, I mean, I have not heeded his calling. And clearly I need to listen to it. But I will do a live Patreon event where I reveal my face. I really am extremely upset about this. I appreciate you guys lying to me and telling me it's getting better. Guys, it's not. It's after I saw those pictures, when I was back at my hotel room, I zoomed in on them. I'm not kidding. I actually cried. I like literally tears down my face in the hotel room. I cried. I was so upset by how I look. And I was like, it's not getting better. If anything, it's getting worse. It is getting worse. All that time in the tube for nothing, in the Ocean Gate sub for nothing. Nothing has helped. I've had like massages by hippies, lymphatic massages, like nothing's helping. But we will do a state of the face update. I'll give you some other updates. I'm on to a new type of therapy now that will probably also not work and just cost me money. I'm going back to the acupuncture place, the one who was like, why you do that to your face? I'm like, hey, good question. That's just the beginning of the questions, honey. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Saturday, I haven't decided the time yet, but it's probably up by the time you hear this. And I'll reveal my face and cry. It's getting worse. I'm telling you, this is a degenerative condition and it's not getting better. It's never going to get better. Okay, whatever. So that'll be Saturday, and the replay will be available if you miss it. We'll have Caitlin and her kids there. It'll be a lot of fun. The kids always jump into my Patreons, and it's so funny. It's so chaotic. It's so chaotic. But yeah, so that's why I have to go into hiding. I mean, just imagine that, like, these nice people, they're so dressed up, and they had the biggest smiles on their face. Just, oh yes, to stand in front of the beautiful backdrop, Valentine's Day themed, and this huge lumbering freak of a woman, just face like distorted, and literally the Joker walks up and is like, oh, like I touched them. I put my arm around them. Because Caitlin, you've seen me take pictures with our lovely listeners of this podcast. We all, we put our arms around each other. You guys, I'm going to get Me Too'd over this. I touched people that I don't know them, and they don't know me, and she's touching us. She's there. I know they're probably. What if it's contagious? She's touching us. Get us away. I am lucky I didn't get tasered. I'm surprised they weren't like stranger danger and spray me down with mace. That's going to happen if I keep leaving the house. Man, after I realized that, I was like, I should cancel my tour. Like, I can't do this. I can't look this horrible taking pictures with fans. I can't go out. Like, I truly had a crisis. But I will say the tour is back on. I mean, it's always been on. Buffalo, Royal Oak. Oh, I just booked. Wait. There's a city after Royal Oak. We just added Milwaukee. Hey, brand new. Hey, big announcement. There you go. This podcast is organized, and I knew I was going to say that. Milwaukee. We just added you. Richmond, Virginia Beach, Denver, Plano, Tyler, Texas. Can't miss that. Columbus, Ohio, and New York City. We finally got the ticket link for New York. Get your tickets at jfcomedytour.com. And welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show. Everything you just heard was just set up. That is the main topic. And we always get to the main topic in the second half of the show. And the main topic today is about the concept of learning to love the bomb. You have to learn to love it when things are falling apart. And boy, have I've got my Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours in of loving the bomb, whether it's bombing on a stand-up comedy stage just a few months ago, getting dropped by my agent and manager, and then get a new manager, things are going well. And I was like, oh, good, yeah, things are looking up. And then this. Now I look like a Chechen warlord. So, there you go. Main topic in the second half of the show. We have some really fun stuff to talk about in the first part of the show. We are coming to you from Austin, Texas, and we publish new episodes every Wednesday morning. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That is being a hot girl boss or hot boy boss who knows that love and family and community are the foundations of all true success. Another mission of this podcast is to teach you how to step into your villain era as well. And you know what? You guys don't even have to look like a villain like I do. You can do it and be hot. Like, you don't have to be hideous. Just because I'm choosing to be hideous doesn't mean that you have to be hideous. We do bonus content on Patreon. We've got 2 different levels. Patreon, it's very easy to unjoin if you want to. Patreon is just a platform where creators can offer premium content, bonus content. And Patreon is the system that processes the membership part of it, and then I can go on Patreon and say, here's a bonus video just for my members, here's a live event just for my members. So that's all Patreon is. My address, as you know, is patreon.com/thisisjen. That is where you find my bonus content. And if you subscribe at any level, you get access to these live events like the one this Saturday, February 15th, where I will be revealing my face again and just calling you out on you guys telling me it looks better, because it doesn't. I'm telling you it does not. Anyway, let's talk about the intro topic. I'm so excited about this. I cannot even tell you. Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance. I know that it wasn't a lot of people's cup of tea. A lot of white people who I know were like, I didn't get it. That didn't resonate with me. And I understand their perspective because Kendrick didn't do a lot of hits, especially kind of hits that everyone can sing along with, like the famous Katy Perry Super Bowl. A lot of those songs she did, they weren't recent songs. These were songs that were very deep in the public psyche, that whether or not you're a Katy fan, you could sing along with them because they were very deeply well-known songs. And Kendrick really only did one song, which we will get to, that is fairly well known. The others, you'd have to be pretty familiar with his catalog of work, or at least with hip hop, to really know and be able to sing along with the other songs he did. So I understand. For my friends who were not, deep in the hip hop world, I understand how they were a little bit confused about it, thinking, I thought the Super Bowl was supposed to be more general audience. I thought the Super Bowl was supposed to be a bunch of classic hits that we can all sing along with. Like when Missy Elliott was there, she sang her famous hit. And so I think that's what a lot of people were expecting. And that is totally fair. But let me tell you what you're not understanding here. You witnessed world history. If you watched that Super Bowl halftime show, if you didn't, you need to go look it up on YouTube. What I witnessed in that show, that is the pettiest and most iconic thing that has happened in the past 1,000 years. In fact, we might have to go back 2,000 or 3,000 years to find anything that iconic and petty. And yes, the price we had to pay for it is to have a performer who performed quite a few songs that a large portion of the viewing audience was not familiar with. But listen, for those of you who didn't get the halftime performance, I am about to show you that your sacrifice created something that is so magnificent and so beautiful. And now you will be able to watch it again and realize how utterly worth it all was. I'm ready to put Kendrick Lamar on Mount Rushmore. If there's not room, take off one of the other guys. Because just do like a little facial remodeling. And I want to say for the record, I was not a big Kendrick fan before this, but by doing the most petty and iconic thing I have ever seen anyone do, and frankly, anyone has ever seen anyone do, the man has earned my respect. I sit in awe of him. He has taught me I'm not serious enough about vengeance. He has made me realize there is a whole new level that I can take pettiness and vindictiveness and vengeance to, that I haven't even, I feel like I've been stuck in a glass ceiling. I've been stuck in the glass ceiling of pettiness and vengeance. And Kendrick Lamar showed me at that Super Bowl that there's just so much further I can take it. And I'm inspired. I, for one, am inspired. Now, if you're a new listener and are not familiar with my rap beef content, episodes 222, that's kind of the main one. It was from September 18th of last year, episode 222, and then also 206 and 207. You can just search those numbers and my name will come up. I went into rap beef, like all the Kendrick Drake beef stuff. So if you would like to do a deep dive on my takes on this subject, episodes 222, 206, 207, in one of them, there's an asterisk here. In one of them, I kept saying Drake's name when I meant to say Kendrick's name. It's just hard to keep all this in my head because I know so much about all these rap beefs that I got confused. I think that was 206 maybe. I kept saying Drake when I meant to say Kendrick. So you have to really put on your thinking cap for that one. But the one from September 18th, episode 222, that has a pretty good summary. Okay. But you don't have to listen to it if you don't want to. I will recap here. Okay. So Kendrick and Metro Boomin and a couple other guys. Now I forget who else. I don't think it was A$AP Rocky. Do you remember who was on the original track that made Drake so mad?
No, I don't.
It might have been A$AP.
Google it.
Yeah, do that. Because that would be weird, because A$AP and Kendrick and Drake, were all on a song. I can't even hint at what the title of it is, but anyway, but it was definitely Metro Boomin and Kendrick were on this song. And this was almost a year ago at this point. This was quite a while back. And the song wasn't that much of an insult to Drake, but there was one line that was very clearly about Drake and insulted Drake. So Drake went nuclear. He started dropping diss tracks, and he dropped one in particular called Push-Ups, which that's the one that I detailed in the previous podcast episodes. I was saying at the time, I said, because I didn't know, because I had limiting beliefs about what a beef can really be. I was thinking small. I was thinking way too small about what it looks like to win a rap beef, or any beef. I just had no idea. Okay, who else was on the song, Caitlin?
Future.
Oh, Future. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay, so it was Future, Metro Boomin, and Kendrick Lamar. Now Future has we can forget Future because he didn't get super involved. Okay, so even though it was just one line that was not that big of a deal, there has been a lot of bad blood in the past. So Drake went nuclear, and his kind of swan song was a track called Push-Ups. And I said at the time, I said it on this podcast, in those previous episodes, I said, I think Push-Ups is the best diss track of all time. Drake won. I just don't know how Kendrick really couldn't come back from that. I had no idea. I'm telling you, Kendrick Lamar has just taught me how to rethink my whole life. I mean, and Drake, I think has learned a very important lesson. You need to spend some time thinking about who you are messing with and what their talent and resources and capabilities are if you're going to start a war with them. You need to make sure that you don't awake a sleeping giant, which is exactly what Drake ended up doing. So Drake got very personal very quickly. The song Push-Ups has this refrain where he keeps saying, drop and give me 50, drop and give me 50. This is a reference to the fact that Drake found out that Kendrick was giving 50% of his income to his management. It is a point of pride in the entertainment industry of what little percentages you can give up to your management, because it's an indicator that you have status. If you must have a lot of clout, let's say if you're only giving your management 5% or something like that. If you negotiate them down 8%, it means you must be very famous and have a lot of clout. So that was a pretty private business thing that Drake found out. And the whole song was like, drop and give me 50, drop and give me 50, which sounds like he's talking about push-ups, but he was talking about the percentage. He called out Metro Boomin in some very, very specific terms. He also, so he referred to Kendrick Lamar as a midget. He talked about how he wears size 7 shoes and drew out some implications of what that might mean for, Kendrick's anatomy generally. The cover of his single was a shoebox that says size 7 on it. Because Kendrick Lamar I think he's pretty short. I think he's something like 5'5". And so Drake called him a midget, made fun of him for being short. Then he insulted Kendrick's longtime girlfriend. I'm not sure if she's his wife, but they've been together for a really long time. He talked about Kendrick cheating on her. And that I think was in a different song, or something he said on social media. But he went nuclear. He brought Kendrick's family into it. It implied that he wasn't attractive to women because of his height, implied some other things that, his height might indicate. He just went nuclear. And then with his line about Metro, and then I had to paraphrase it in a previous episode, so I will paraphrase it again here. He called out Metro by name, which is unusual. Remember this in a minute. Usually in rap beefs, there is a tradition where everybody knows who you're talking about, but you don't say their name. Drake thought it would be cool and iconic of him to actually use someone's name. So in that song, there was a break in the music, and he shouted, "Metro, shut your little face up and make some drums, friend." That's not at all what he said, but that is my translation. So that refrain became popular among Drake's fans. Metro, shut your little face up and go make some drums. And so everyone was repeating that. And Drake hired a mariachi band to just sing that phrase over and over again. And then he put that on his social media. And Drake thought he won. And we all thought he won. And there was a little element of frustration, because another thing you need to know is Drake grew up middle class. A lot of people in hip hop feel like he didn't quite have the exact same Black experience because he grew up in Canada. He grew up in Toronto, and his mom is white. And so within the hip hop world, just being middle class white from Toronto, Canada, there was just a feeling of you don't, maybe don't use that word that you're so fond of using so much, and you're not like from the streets of Compton. Whereas Kendrick Lamar and his father especially, I mean, they were actually in it. They definitely lived in Compton for a while, but I want to say it was Chicago or something, like in a really bad part of Chicago. So Kendrick has really been immersed in that just difficulty, close to gang situations and things like that, of the kind of classic hip hop gritty experience. And so there was that tension too, that you have to understand. They very much saw Drake as this kind of upper middle class, pampered Canadian kid who really shouldn't be rapping about how tough he is, because, growing up in like middle class Toronto is just different than growing up in Compton. Yeah. It's a little different. So that tension had been brewing anyway. A lot of the people in the industry were kind of sick of Drake for that reason. So Kendrick Lamar went quiet. And there was a frustration that, man, it's so frustrating that Drake won. Also because it's pretty well known that Drake has ghostwriters, and Kendrick writes his own music. And this isn't confirmed, but everyone kind of knows Drake has ghostwriters. It's a known thing that nobody talks about. And so his music it's very catchy. It's very clever, but as you would expect if you have a whole team of people working on it, whereas Kendrick does his own music. So there was kind of a little bit of a David and Goliath vibe here, that Drake had more industry connections. His career had been hotter than Kendrick's recently. Kendrick's previous album had not done that well, something that Drake brought up in his diss tracks. So there was this underdog David and Goliath feel, and it was, I think, frustrating to people that the guy who was seen as more privileged, also a guy who had some very inappropriate dealings with younger girls whose DMs he'd been in. It was just like, man, like Darth Vader won here. There was just sort of that feeling. And everyone thought that was it. Kendrick exploded back onto the scene with multiple diss tracks, including Not Like Us. I can't play a clip of it because YouTube will YouTube is draconian about rights, but you would know the song. You can pull up Not Like Us. You'd know it if you heard it. And I think Drake is now regretting doing away with the tradition of not naming people. Because remember, he kind of broke that tradition when he called out Metro in his diss track. So Kendrick was like, oh, okay, all right, we're naming names. In this song, in Not Like Us, Kendrick he's doing the typical thing of talking about a mystery person, just general concepts of they not like us, that sort of thing. And then suddenly he goes, say Drake, and then goes into, I don't even know if YouTube might ding me if I even quote what the lyrics are, but he goes into basically all of the fairly well substantiated accusations against Drake being inappropriate with minors. And you might have heard the refrain. This is what everyone knows from the song. This is one of the most memorable lines of the decade. He's talking about Drake, and he says, "You're trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor."
I love that.
Little play on words there. So that everyone was shocked that he named Drake by name, but then the song took off. It's a very catchy song. It became the song of the summer. It was this huge, everybody loved this song. And so I thought, and I think this is what I was talking about it on the podcast, I said, I can't imagine winning bigger than that. I mean, this is the hit song. Everyone's talking about it. He just destroyed Drake. And it's pretty well known that Kendrick wrote this one himself, as opposed to Drake having a team of people. And I thought, well, that's how that story ends, because you can't win bigger than that. Friends, I didn't dare to dream like Kendrick Lamar dreams. So Kendrick Lamar then got plugged to do the Super Bowl. Drake actually has a song where he refers to himself as bigger than the Super Bowl. So all of the Kendrick fans immediately were like, oh, bigger than the Super Bowl, you think? and as a backstory, Jay-Z picks who does the Super Bowl. Lil Wayne is kind of on Drake's side. He's friends with Drake, and Lil Wayne is from New Orleans. And I played a clip. Actually, that I'm pretty sure that was episode 222. Lil Wayne was just about crying about the fact that he didn't get to perform in the Super Bowl, and Jay-Z is obviously on Kendrick's side. So there was definitely, Jay-Z definitely had an interest in this beef. So it's just Kendrick. It's not a group of people. In many Super Bowls, you bring in a whole group of people, but nope. Just Kendrick, even though he didn't have a lot of hits that mainstream America would recognize. Clearly, Jay-Z was like, your vengeance needs to be complete, and I will hand you the Super Bowl halftime show to make that happen. And I thought it was very well done. I know it wasn't to a lot of people's taste. I thought it was magnificent. I thought it was so good. And again, I was not really a fan of Kendrick's going into this. Here's what I'm leading up to. I told you guys to look out for, will Kendrick say Drake's name? Because the only hit that mainstream America even might know about is They Not Like Us, because it was such a big hit this year, and it's very recent. But he names Drake by name, and he lists all of the horrible accusations against Drake. So the question was, and this is what I was saying in episode 222, I said, will he say Drake's name? You can't do that, but the whole song is a list of accusations against Drake. So how are you going to get around it? I have never watched a televised event as closely as I watched this halftime show, because I had to know how is Kendrick going to get around this? So he does a bunch of his songs. I wasn't that familiar with them. Then he starts playing the very iconic intro beats, very recognizable intro beats of They Not Like Us. Then he stops it, and his backup singers say, why they kind of sing, why did you stop the song? And he said, 'cause they like to sue. I totally forgot. Drake responded with a lawsuit, which is that is exactly what everyone in real hip hop thinks of him. That he is a spoiled middle class kid who knows nothing about the streets, and he ran to his lawyers. He ran to his lawyers as soon as things got tough, and they were like, that is such a wussy rap beef move to bring the lawyers into it. Like I thought that, Pac and Biggie, they're rolling over in their graves. Like, what are you talking? You brought your lawyers into it. So he mentions that in the Super Bowl. Keep in mind, even of people who are familiar with Kendrick Lamar's work, probably only 5% of them know that Drake is suing him. So he used the Super Bowl stage to make a dig at his enemy that 99% of people walking, probably 99.5% of people watching would not even understand. That is a level of pettiness that I didn't know. I'd never expanded my mind to that level of magnificent pettiness. So the backup singers say, why did you stop the song? He said, because they like to sue. So then he goes into a different song. And then you hear the beats of They Not Like Us playing again. So for those of us who have watched this rap beef and who have been following it very closely, to have Kendrick Lamar teasing it, like, is he or isn't he? Is he going to do it? Is he going to play the song that he kind of has to play, but he can't play? He can't play that song. It was like if someone, like, have you ever seen a cat react to catnip? It would be like if someone had a wheelbarrow overflowing with catnip and keeps kind of putting it in the door and then pulling it out the door and then putting it in. That is how I was reacting to him, like maybe playing this. Oh, but then he'd stop. And I thought, I was like, maybe he won't play it. I mean, I don't know. There's been some weird stuff in entertainment lately. Maybe he's not going to play it. That would be so disappointing, but I'd also get it. Then, boom, the beat drops. He starts They Not Like Us, but he changed the lyrics a bit. So it was a little bit more just general, just like, hey, I'm the best and they want to stop us. And it was me and two of my daughters who have followed the rap beef, and actually what Caitlin's oldest was there too. And we're just,
Yeah.
okay, that's like, this is fun. And this is what they do for the Super Bowl. You water it down a little bit, but that makes sense. It's for a general audience. And then Caitlin, pull up the picture. We have the picture of this moment on YouTube. Kendrick, and everything in his mind. Drake insulting his wife. Drake saying he has tiny feet. Drake calling him a midget. Drake revealing that Kendrick had to give 50% of his profits to a manager. This is all in Kendrick's heart. He's doing a watered down, generic version of his song. He turns to the camera, looks directly into the camera with a piercing gaze, and he says, "Say, Drake." And then he goes in to every single accusation against Drake. And he was wearing a necklace that is a lowercase a. Get it?
Yeah.
And the whole audience sang along. That was the one line that even the boomers, everyone in that stadium knew when he says, "You're to Drake from the Super Bowl stage, you're trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor." And then that's when I got what the lowercase a was on his necklace. When I had settled into the idea that this was going to be a watered down general audience Super Bowl performance. When he turned to that camera and said, "Say, Drake," turned to the camera and said it, I actually screamed. Both of my daughters, all the girls, we exploded. I mean, I think people outside were concerned about what was going on in the house. We screamed our heads off. And there's a picture of this moment, JF on YouTube.com. This is episode, 241? Mm-hmm. Or you can just search on YouTube, Fulwiler 241, it'll come up. So I have a picture here of this moment when Kendrick Lamar turned to the camera and said, "Say, Drake," and goes on. It was the pettiest thing I have ever seen in my life, and it is the greatest victory that I think anyone has won in the past couple thousand years. We'd have to go back to, you guys remember, do you remember when Alexander fought the Persians and they were in that narrow passage? Okay, am I the only one who's into ancient history around here? Well, Alexander, he was up against the Persian army, and I mean, they were outnumbered like 10-1. And Alexander won. And that was kind of what made him, like, that's when people were like, okay, I think people will still be talking about this guy 3,000 years from now. And you'd have to go back to that to see anyone win like Kendrick Lamar just won. To say that, and then, did you guys notice Serena Williams was there?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doing a dance. Why would Serena Williams be there? That's random.
That's his ex-girlfriend.
That is Drake's ex-girlfriend, who he was very hung up on and publicly had said some, I don't know exactly what he said, but he had made some digs at her because he was so hung up on her. That is how much of a hater Kendrick Lamar is. It's so random. Normally at a Super Bowl performance, if you're a singer, you might have some other singers, like when Missy Elliott stopped by, for that one Super Bowl, you have other singers coming. Serena Williams there's no reason for her to be there. She's just so randomly doing a dance. I'm like, what? Like, why is she's just standing there. But I should have known. No, this is another dig at Drake. This man used a Super Bowl halftime show to bury his enemy. Who started it? It was a small dig that Drake could have let go in that first song. And Drake decided to insult his family. Oh, and Drake also implied he was a bad father, insulted his wife, called him short, called him a midget, it divulged his financial details, insulted all of his friends. And Kendrick was like, okay. Okay. How about I list every horrible accusation against you in a song, make it the biggest hit song in recent years, and then say all of these accusations aimed at you by name on the Super Bowl stage with your ex-girlfriend dancing backup. How about that? It's one of those things. I was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. Yeah. What I have just witnessed. That is the most iconic thing I have ever seen anyone do. I will fight anyone who says that wasn't the most iconic Super Bowl halftime show of all time. Forget the music. I didn't know the songs. Who cares? It doesn't matter if you knew the songs. You just got to watch an intergalactic level of pettiness. That is a level of pettiness you will not see again anytime soon. And that is a beef victory, the likes of which shall not be seen again for many, many, many a moon. So if you missed it, or even if you saw it and didn't get it, go look up Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance and just hold space with that. Hold space with that moment when you think, okay, he won't play the song. Okay, he's playing the song, but it's a watered down version. I mean, he shouldn't say Drake's name. That's probably not appropriate. And then he looks right at the camera and goes in for the kill shot. It's with the ex-girlfriend dancing in the background. Yeah. Final thing before we move on to the main topic. Another thing Drake did was he just randomly insulted Taylor Swift because in his diss track, he made fun of Kendrick Lamar for featuring on a Taylor Swift song. And so he made a little dig at Taylor Swift. Do you know how much money I would pay? Do you know how much money I would pay to have a camera on Taylor Swift when Kendrick went there and called out Drake by name?
Oh, man, I wish.
I'd pay so much money for that footage because I was screaming, and I mean screaming at the top of my lungs when he did it. And I wasn't even insulted by Drake. That'd be great. Wouldn't it be great if he was like, Jen, Fulwiler's podcast sucks, in his next song? That'd be amazing. I'd love to have a beef with Drake. But, I mean, and Taylor Swift is petty. It's one of the reasons I like her. She is constantly getting vengeance on people who insult her and do her wrong. So, I mean, I feel like she must have ascended into the astral plane when he actually went there and took out Drake. I cannot believe they didn't have a camera on her for that. That's my only disappointment of the evening. Final note, since we're done with football for a while because now the season's over, I just want to show you, this is why you should be following football for next year. This was the Super Bowl of pettiness, evidently, because pull the tweet up. Yeah, okay. Nick Foles, I'll tell you who he is in a minute. So Tom Brady recently retired from playing football, and Tom Brady was the announcer of this game. The Chiefs and the Eagles were playing, and the Eagles won. They were not expected to win, but they won decidedly and it was great for them. So Nick Foles says it's really cool that Tom Brady got to be there for the. Wait, can you read it, Caitlin? That is far away from me.
It's really cool that Tom Brady got to be there for the Eagles' 2 Super Bowl wins. He might be a good luck charm. Have a good night.
Yeah, Brady might be a good luck charm. So Nick Foles was the Eagles quarterback that beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. So that's what that is a reference to, that Tom Brady lost to him in a Super Bowl, and he fires up Twitter and is like, it's so cool that Tom Brady was there for both of the Eagles wins. He must be a good luck charm. Pettiest tweet I've seen in a long time. This is what you're missing by not following sports. Okay, man. So there you go. All right, before we get to the main topic, I just want to remind you, Patreon Live this Saturday. The time will be up. It's probably up on Patreon now. If not, it will be soon. Patreon.com/thisisjen, and the replay will be available. And guys, I'm so upset. I'm so upset about the way I look. I'm serious. I'm not kidding when I say I really cried after I saw that picture of me from the event. I mean, it is kind of funny that I thought I looked mysterious. Okay, that part's pretty funny. But it's horrible. My life is just misery because of this. We will talk about it on Saturday. Okay, love the bomb. I have always loved this quote. It's actually from Stephen Colbert. And he talks about how the guy who ran Second City, which was a big comedy group, told him that when you're doing comedy, you have to love the bomb. I first discovered this quote when I first got into comedy. And I thought it was interesting because I did not love bombing, and I was bombing a lot because I was new to stand-up, and I do clean comedy, which is notoriously, it's a little harder with, and I don't want to make it sound, I mean, it's not like squeaky clean, but it, you know what I mean? I don't go into sex and vulgar stuff. And in Austin especially, that was hard to figure out how to get laughs and not talk about everything that the YouTube algorithm will kill me for saying if I list it out. So, I was intrigued by that quote because I couldn't imagine loving the bomb. But Colbert emphasizes that is exactly what his mentor meant. So this is the quote that he said. This is from a GQ article where Colbert says, "It took me a long time to really understand what love the bomb meant. It wasn't, don't worry, you'll get it next time. It wasn't, laugh it off. No, it means what it says. You got to learn to love when you're failing. The embracing of that, the discomfort of failing in front of an audience leads you to penetrate through the fear that blinds you. Fear is the mind killer." I think it's fear that binds you. Whatever. It blinds you and it binds you. And I have spent years trying to fully embrace that principle. And I think this stuff with my face is helping me really get there. But I actually love this quote so much. We'll put this up on YouTube. Show the necklace, Caitlin. I used to wear this when I did stand-up. It's a bar necklace. I got it on Etsy. And it says, "Love the bomb" on it. And I used to wear that when I would go up and do stand-up, because again, it wasn't going well. And if you imagine, standing in front of a bunch of people at a very hip Austin club, everyone's very hip, everyone's like 25, 30, and just standing up there and you're telling jokes and nobody is laughing. And keep in mind another thing with these shows I go on, that there are a bunch of other comics on them. When I talk about doing comedy in Austin, I'm almost always talking about I am one of many comics on the show. And we each have 10 or 15 minutes. And so that also means that the other comics are standing around watching you bomb. That's good on the necklace, Caitlin. The other comics are standing around watching you bomb, and they're resenting you because you are killing the vibe in the room. And the other thing is, you can't just choose to cut your set short, because the comic who goes after you and the MC often leave the room, usually to go buy marijuana or something along those lines. And so I learned this the hard way one time. I was bombing so hard. It was like 3 minutes into a 10-minute set. And I was like, okay, well, thanks, guys. That's it for me. But the host and the next comic, neither one of them were anywhere around. They were like outside smoking or something. And so I was walking off stage and it was just empty and silent. So then I was really killing the show. You can't have an empty stage. And there was all of this pandemonium. Some comic who was supposed to be last but wasn't ready, didn't know whether to come up. Guys, I had to get back on that stage and finish my set to an audience that now knew that I was bombing so hard that I tried to walk off the stage. I would rather have my face look like it does than go through that again. Truly horrific experience. And I had my Love the Bomb necklace on, and I was like, I'm not loving this. Actually, I'm really not. So what I'm about to play is an interview with Stephen Colbert and Anderson Cooper. And regardless of what you think of them and their opinions and their politics, to be honest, both of these guys have occasionally gotten on my nerves with some of their public statements, but it doesn't matter. We're setting all that aside because for this clip, we are looking at the very human side of them. And this is an absolutely beautiful interview where Stephen Colbert goes into what he is referencing. What you are about to hear him reference is the fact that his father and his brother were both killed in a plane crash. So imagine that. His father and his brother were killed in a plane crash. And he's talking to Anderson Cooper, who is Anderson. I don't know if you know this about him, but Anderson Cooper is from the Vanderbilt family. Yes, that Vanderbilt family. He's from them. And there was a lot of infighting in his family about who would control the kids because they wanted to control their trust fund. I think it was actually a very difficult way to grow up. Anderson Cooper had one brother, an older brother, and that brother took his own life by jumping off of the family's building when Anderson was, I think, still a teenager. The brother was about 23. So, and that was his only brother. And so these are two guys who have been through a lot. And Stephen is talking about his concept of Love the Bomb. And what I think is really, really poignant is you actually hear Anderson Cooper get quite choked up at this interview. So Caitlin, play it. This is Stephen Colbert talking about the concept of Love the Bomb with Anderson Cooper.
Another timeline, and this is it. And the bravest thing you can do is to accept with gratitude the world as it is, and then, as Gandalf says, so do all people who are in such times.
You told an interviewer that you have learned to, in your words, love the thing that I most wish had not happened.
I remember.
You went on to say, "What punishments of God are not gifts?" Do you really believe that?
Yes. It's a gift to exist. It's a gift to exist, and with existence comes suffering. There's no escaping that. And I guess I'm either a Catholic or a Buddhist when I say those things because I've heard those.
So I got choked up when Anderson Cooper started getting choked up, just knowing what both of these men have been through. And Anderson was thinking of his brother when he got choked up and said, do you mean that we have to love all parts of life? And Colbert went on to say, look, when you're in pain, I mean, you're alive, it's a sign that you're alive. Can't feel pain if you're dead, it's a sign that you're alive, and this is part of the human experience and the ups and the downs, and you have to learn to love what is right now. And I actually thought of that as I realized that I had been jumping into these poor people's pictures. They just wanted a nice picture of them in their pretty dress, and like this deformed giant comes up. Like, have you guys seen Goonies, that movie where there's like he's like an uncle or something who's like, blah, 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 and his face is all messed up. Like, that's me. And I'm just like jumping. And they're like, well, she seems to like to have her picture taken. I guess we should let her. I thought of the Love the Bomb. I wish that I had that necklace on there, because I think what it is, I think that the genius behind the Love the Bomb lifestyle is that you find a way to laugh at yourself and laugh at certain elements of your circumstance, even while holding space with the pain. And I remember that when I was planning my dad's funeral. You guys know he died very suddenly. It was an internal bleeding issue. It just came up out of the blue, and I had just been texting with him, and he just died. It was insane. And his father had lived like 25, almost 30 years beyond the age he died. So we were like, oh, we have so much time with him. And then that was it. That was the end of that side of the family. Because again, he didn't have siblings, and I don't have siblings. And so that was it for my side of the family. And, we were planning this funeral and like our family cemetery, and where like the rest of my family, that's where they are. That's where you find my paternal side of the family. You have to go to the cemetery for that, because none of them are still around. And so that was depressing. It was very depressing. That was actually, it was just 3 weeks before I filmed my first comedy special, The Naughty Corner. So I was doing comedy touring, which was insane. And I remember finding these Love the Bomb moments where I would find ways to laugh in the midst of it. And it didn't mean I was, of course, not laughing at the situation. And of course, I wished with everything in me that this situation was not happening. But I found ways, just kind of instinctively, I think out of survival, to find moments to laugh in the midst of them. Like, for example, things with my filming were falling apart pretty catastrophically. And that one was actually not my fault. They just hit me out of the blue. And I was laughing so hard with my husband about how I really played up my father's death to like try to get something to go my way. And it was just so, I felt like I was a sitcom character, because I was trying to salvage this very massive and expensive project. And I was like, this feels so awful that I'm using this event to like try to get things to go my way. And we were just laughing at the absurdity of it. And when I think back on that, I'm like, yeah, that's loving the bomb. And again, it doesn't mean that you're happy the bomb happened. I mean, Stephen Colbert, of course, he didn't wish that his father and brother would pass away. I mean, of course. But it's finding ways to love life and laugh at life when you're standing in the aftermath. And I will tell you, I've had some real existential moments the past week or so. I don't care what you guys say. I am convinced it's not getting better. And that's not shtick. I've been accused of using my face thing to build my Patreon. And I will say, for those who are accusing me of it, it is working. I mean, my Patreon is way up. It's really booming. So if that were what I was doing, I mean, it's effective. But no, but seriously, the reason I'm putting it on Patreon is I don't want a public record of this. I'd rather have a public record of me looking like a Chechen warlord than looking the way I do. And so but it really does cause me a fair amount of mental anguish, especially when I was convinced a few days ago. I was like, not only is it not getting better, I think it's getting worse. I think it might be permanent, because I go into all this on Patreon. Again, I don't want a public record of it. I don't want a public debate of it. I don't want my haters are already butting into like Instagram comments being like, it's Bell's palsy. It's not Bell's palsy. So anyway, whatever. Well, that's why I'm keeping the details like somewhat hidden. It's, behind a paywall at least, so that it's not on Google. But I genuinely deeply do not feel like it's getting better. And I genuinely deeply feel like that's a bad sign. And I have had, as much as I joke, I have had some real moments of just existential, why me, blah, blah, blah. And I think I finally get it. Love the bomb. You guys probably saw on social media, I put something up where I was just trolling my haters for accusing me of building my Patreon. Obviously, it's so stupid and ridiculous that, this eye patch thing I'm doing, we added an eye patch to my tour poster. And honestly, guys, I'm really having fun with it. I really am. And when I realized that, because someone who saw me in my upset, shaking my fist at the heavens state asked, they said, so is all this fun you're having with it on your podcast and on social media, is that an act? Are you just like devastated all the time like I'm seeing you now, and is it an act? And I said, no, it's not an act. I am genuinely having fun with it and finding this to be very funny in a lot of ways, genuinely. And they said, okay, but you're a mess right now and you're very upset. And I said, yes, that is also genuine. I am very upset. And that's when I think after all these years, I think that's when I finally got what Stephen Colbert was talking about. It's living with that duality, that I am genuinely furious that this happened. I would love to know why me? This doesn't happen to like anyone else. The doctors I've seen are like, are you serious? Like, that's wow. And I'm also genuinely having fun with it. And I have moments where I'm like, man, this might end up being worth it. This is pretty fun. The Patreon's exploding. I don't know. This is pretty great. And it's sitting with that duality of I am, when I'm laughing with you guys here on the podcast and on social media, I am genuinely having a great time telling you the stories of ruining that poor couple's nice Valentine's Day photo. Genuinely, I am having such a fun time bringing you into this wild ride. And I'm so glad to have you guys with me. And that is genuine. And I also am furious that it happened. I wish it never happened. And I often cry myself to sleep because I've now convinced myself it's getting worse and this is forever. And I can feel both. And I can feel both at the same time. And it reminds me of going back to the idea of Love the Bomb. That time when I had to go back on stage, when I had walked off stage, because I said to them, I was like, oh, I suck. I'm leaving, guys. Whatever. And they was like, hey, I'm back. And then they really didn't want to laugh because they were like, no, she's established. She sucks. Get someone else up here. And they didn't. And then I bombed for 7 more minutes. Set a timer and sit in silence for 7 minutes. And you see how long 7 minutes feels. And in that moment, I was already thinking of how I was going to tell you guys about, I think I was on the radio. Yeah, I didn't have this podcast at that point. I was still on the radio, but a lot of you guys were with me back then. And I was already thinking of how I was going to tell you guys about it. And I also had this moment as people were getting up and leaving, as the other comics who were like later were like, she is killing this. She's walking people. She's killing this show. She is bombing so hard. So they had their hands across their chests, like, why is this amateur up here? And it was such a mess. But in the midst of it, I was like, wow, I'm doing stand-up. I'm sucking at it, but I'm doing it. And I felt this calling and I had this dream and I'm up here and I'm living it and I'm doing it and I'm alive and I'm able to do it and I'm able to have this experience. And it didn't even fully click for me in that moment. But now I realize that's what it means to love the bomb. It is to hold space for two contradictory emotions at once. The emotion of, this is truly horrible. I wish I weren't bombing. I wish I had better material, and I wish these people were laughing. And also the emotion of, I'm glad to be here because this is pretty funny. This is going to make a great story. And like Stephen Colbert said when he was talking to Anderson Cooper, I'm alive. And what a gift that is to even be alive to experience this bomb. And when you can hold space for both of those things, that's when you really realize what it means to love the bomb. Perfect ending. How is this podcast? We can't figure it out. Patreon live event. We will have the replay available if you miss it. Patreon.com/thisisjen or /IsisGen, however you prefer to say it. Follow me on Instagram. We will be back next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.